Fischer opens with the English opening, pushing his c-pawn to c4. Spassky responds classically with e6, preparing to control the center with d5. Knight f3 develops white's kingside pieces. Spassky strikes in the center with d5, directly challenging white's c4 pawn. White plays d4, establishing a strong central presence. Black develops the knight to f6, attacking the e4 square and preparing kingside castling. Knight c3 develops naturally, supporting the d4 pawn. Bishop e7 completes black's solid setup, typical of the queen's gambit decline structure. Bishop g5 pins the knight to the queen, a classic positional motif. Spassky castles kingside, securing his king and activating his rook. Fischer plays e3, preparing to complete his development. Black pushes h6, forcing the bishop to make a decision about the pin. Bishop h4 maintains the pin without retreating too far. Spassky plays b6, preparing to fianchetto the queenside bishop and challenge the long diagonal. C-pawn takes d5. Fischer opens the position and clears the c-file for his rook. Knight takes d5 is forced. Black must recapture to maintain material balance. This exchange defines the position. White will get active pieces on the c-file, while black's central knight looks temporarily strong but could become a target. Bishop takes e7, eliminating black's solid defensive bishop. Queen takes e7 recaptures, bringing the queen into active play but exposing it slightly in the center. Knight takes d5, simplifying further and opening more lines. Black recaptures with the e-pawn, maintaining central control but creating a potential weakness on d5. Rook c1. Fischer seizes the open c-file immediately, a textbook positional move. The rook will pressure c7 and control the only open file. Black develops bishop e6, defending d5 and preparing to coordinate the pieces, though the rook on c1 creates long-term pressure. Fischer could have played queen of4 first to harass black's position, but the immediate rook activity is more principled. Queen of4 attacks the a7 pawn and eyes the weak dark squares. Spassky pushes c5, striking back at white's center and freeing his position. Queen of3 repositions to attack c5 and maintain pressure. Black plays rook c8, doubling on the c-file and preparing to defend c5 and c7. Bishop b5 pins the knight on b8 and prepares to exchange on c5. Black plays a 6, forcing the bishop to make a decision about where it wants to go. d-pawn takes c5, opening lines and simplifying the structure. b-pawn takes c5 maintains black's pawn chain, though the b-file is now open for white. Fischer castles kingside, bringing his king to safety and connecting the rooks. Rook a7 defends the 7th rank and prepares to support the queenside pawns. Bishop e2 retreats to a solid square, maintaining flexibility and eyeing the h5 square. Knight d7 develops black's last minor piece, though it's somewhat passive on d7. Knight d4 Fischer centralizes the knight powerfully, controlling key squares like e6, f5, and b5. The knight can't be easily dislodged and dominates the position. Queen f8 retreats awkwardly, but black needs to guard key squares and prepare to regroup. Knight b5 was also possible to attack c7, but the centralized knight on d4 is more flexible and maintains pressure across the entire board. Knight takes e6. A brilliant positional exchange sacrifice is coming. Fischer trades his centralized knight for black's bishop, but more importantly, this damages black's pawn structure and opens the file. F-pawn takes e6 recaptures, but now f7 is gone, and black's king position is permanently weakened. Fischer could have maintained the knight on d4, but the structural damage and open files created by this exchange are worth more than keeping the centralized knight. e4. White's pawn advances, gaining space and restricting black's pieces. Black pushes d4, creating a passed pawn, but also blocking the position temporarily. f4. Fischer prepares a kingside pawn storm, targeting black's weakened kingside. Queen e7 returns to defend, coordinating with the rooks, but the queen is somewhat passive. e5. The pawn advance continues, cramping black's pieces and gaining more space. Rook b8 moves to the b-file, preparing to defend the 7th rank if needed. Bishop c4 repositions actively, eyeing the weak e6 square and diagonal. King h8 steps away from potential back rank threats and makes room for defensive maneuvers. Queen h3 Fischer swings the queen to the king side, creating direct threats against h6 and preparing to invade. The queen, rooks, and bishop all coordinate toward black's king. Knight f8 defends desperately, but the knight is awkwardly placed, and black's position is becoming critical. Fischer could have pushed h4 immediately to gain space, but bringing the queen into the attack first maximizes the pressure and forces black to respond defensively. b3 secures the bishop on c4 and prepares to advance the a-pawn. Black plays a5, trying to create some counterplay on the queen side, but it's too slow. f5 Fischer crashes through, opening lines toward black's king. The file will soon become a highway for white's rooks. e-pawn takes f5 is forced, but now the e6 square beckons for white's pieces. This breakthrough is the beginning of the decisive attack. Black's king has nowhere to hide, and white's pieces will flood in. Pushing e6 immediately was tempting, but f5 first forces black to weaken further before the final pawn push. Rook takes f5. White's rook invades the 5th rank with devastating effect. Knight h7 retreats desperately, trying to defend, but the knight is out of play. Rook c1 to f1 Fischer doubles rooks on the file, preparing the final assault. Queen d8 retreats, trying to coordinate defense, but black is running out of options. Queen g3 repositions for maximum pressure on g7 in the kingside. Rook e7 defends the 7th rank, but it's a passive, desperate defensive try. h4 Fischer prepares to advance the h-pawn and create more weaknesses. Rook b8 to b7 doubles on the 7th rank, but black's coordination is breaking down. e6. The passed pawn advances to the 6th rank, an absolute monster restricting black's pieces and threatening to promote. This pawn is a dagger aimed at black's heart. Rook b7 to c7 tries to blockade, but white's attack is overwhelming, and the e6 pawn is perfectly supported. Black could have tried moving the king to g8 earlier to activate the rook on b8, but at this point the position is already critical. The e6 pawn transforms the position from difficult to lost. Black's pieces are paralyzed, and white's attack will crash through. Queen e5 centralizes powerfully, controlling key squares and supporting the e6 pawn. Queen e8 defends, but black's position is collapsing under the pressure. a4 fixes black's queenside pawns and prepares to create more weaknesses. Queen d8 shuffles awkwardly, unable to find a good square to coordinate defense. Rook f1 to f2 repositions for maximum flexibility, ready to swing to the 3rd rank or support the f5 rook. Queen e8 returns, trying to cover critical squares but running out of moves. Rook f2 to f3. The rook lifts to the 3rd rank, preparing to invade on the kingside or support the attack. Queen d8 shuffles again. Black is in zugzwang. Any move worsens the position. Bishop d3. Fischer regroups the bishop to support the kingside attack and prepare potential sacrifices on h7. The bishop eyes h7 and supports the queen's invasion. Queen e8 returns once more, but black is completely paralyzed. Fischer could have pushed g4 to advance more pawns, but the bishop move is more forcing and prepares concrete threats that black cannot meet. The position is now utterly dominated. Every white piece is optimally placed, while black can only shuffle pieces hopelessly. Queen e4. The queen centralizes with devastating effect, preparing to deliver the final blow. Knight f6 desperately tries to block lines and defend, but it's too late. Fischer could have taken on h6 immediately with the rook, but the centralized queen is more flexible and maintains all winning options. Black's pieces are scattered and uncoordinated. The knight's desperate leap to f6 is the last gasp of defense before the knockout blow. Rook takes f6, a stunning exchange sacrifice. Fischer gives up the exchange, but rips open black's kingside completely. The attack is now unstoppable. G-pawn takes f6 recaptures, but black's king is completely exposed, and white's remaining rook will deliver checkmate. Spassky could not prevent this. Any other move would have been met by rook takes h6 check followed by mate. This sacrifice is the culmination of Fischer's brilliant positional buildup. The e6 pawn, the doubled rooks, the centralized queen, all converging on black's helpless king. The position transforms from strategically winning to tactically crushing. Rook f3 takes f6. The second rook joins the attack on the 6th rank. King g8 flees toward the center, desperately trying to escape the mating net. Bishop c4 Fischer brings the bishop back to the diagonal, preparing the final checkmate pattern. King h8 steps to the corner, but there's no escape from the inevitable. Queen f4, the final move. Fischer's queen moves to f4, and Spassky resigns immediately. The threat of rook f8 check, followed by rook takes e8 checkmate, is unstoppable, and there's no defense. Black's queen on e8 is pinned, the rooks on c7 and e7 are powerless, and the king has no escape squares. This is the culmination of one of Fischer's most brilliant games, a masterclass in building pressure, seizing the initiative, and converting positional advantages into a crushing attack. Spassky, recognizing the hopelessness of his position, laid down his king in respect for Fischer's magnificent play. This game showcased Fischer at his absolute peak during the 1972 World Championship match.